Spring Public Library's virtual author chat. My guests today are Brenda E. Cortez and Jean Sime, authors of Because of Organ Donation. Brenda is also the author of the Howl the Owl series of books for kids. Welcome, Brenda and Jean. Please tell us a little about your organ transplant journey and what inspired you to write this book. Brenda?
Hi, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Super excited to talk about our book. So Because of Organ Donation, a collection of inspiring stories celebrating the gift of life. So my journey with organ donation started 16 years ago. I am a living kidney donor, and I donated my kidney to another mom. I didn't know her very well. Our kids were in school together, and I heard of her need and didn't really know anything about living donation. I knew about, I had the desire to want to be an organ donor, when I pass away, if it's possible. I had that on my driver's license, but I didn't really know it was possible to save somebody's life in that manner while I was still alive. So I just immediately, when I talked to her, asked her, what do you got to do to be a living kidney donor, for her specifically. Started with the blood type, and I met that requirement and went from there. And 6 months after that was when the transplant took place. And she still has my kidney, and I believe she's doing well with it to this day. We're connected on Facebook. We really talk in person, but it's nice to at least see some posts every now and then from her. So that's how I started with being passionate about organ donation and organ donation awareness. So what actually inspired me then to start writing about it was my daughter. So when I donated, my kids were in 2nd grade and 5th grade. So my daughter was the older one. And she, fast forward to she's a senior in high school, she wrote an inspiring essay to get into college, and it was centered around the kidney donation. And she said it was scary for her as a child, but she felt inspired by me, wanted to help others, be a better person and do something in the medical field. And when I read that, something sparked inside of me. And I knew that back then, that was like 7 years ago, then there weren't any resources for kids at all to talk about, really organ donation and, especially like a living donation. So that's when I decided that I needed to write that book. And so my very first children's book then is, so not part of the Howl the Owl series, but this is the one that kicked it all off. My mom is having surgery, a kidney story. And so I wrote it from her perspective, that her mom was having surgery, and just wanted to explain, some of her fears and just what is surgery. So that one has been helping other kids for the last, I think, 5 years. So I'm pretty honored that it has served a purpose. Could be something that, you might read, maybe not totally for fun, but it could be a little bit educational. Then actually people were asking or commenting saying, oh, that would be a great book for children's hospitals. And I actually had disagreed with them and said, it's really for the child when someone else is having the surgery. So I guess I should do another book where the child is actually the one going through that. And so that's when I wanted to create a cute character that kids could relate to. And I came up with a message of help others with love. And I realized that actually was an acronym spelled out Howl and rhymed with owl. And so I came up with this character. And he actually was the plush guy first. So this is Howl the Owl. And his name stands for Help Others with Love. And he became the character then for the next 8 children's books that I have so far. And they're centered around kindness, helping others, and many of them are also organ donation related. So here's here's the collection. So fast forward now to what actually inspired me to write the book because of organ donation. So to pivot from children's books to a book that, you know, has 25 chapters and it's meant for, you know, adults. I actually was part of a different book that I got to write a chapter in that an author friend of mine had created. And I really liked the concept, and the name of that book is Manifesting Your Dreams. And I got to share how just donating a kidney had led to everything with, you know, this new writing career. So with that concept in mind, I said, you know what, there's so many great, inspiring, amazing stories about organ donation. And there's other books out there that, you know, I've talked about, you know, either just like one organ, you know, one person's journey. And I wanted to bring it all together in one book. And I wanted to have, you know, other living donor stories, recipient, you know, not just kidney, liver, heart, lungs, pancreas, and then also donor families, because they play, you know, a very important part. That without the donor families, you know, there wouldn't be organ donation at all. And that's how it all started. So I'm very connected within the organ donation community, mostly through Facebook. It's been a blessing. That's where I met Jean. That's how I met Jean. And many of the others that I invited to participate and write a chapter in this book. So I wrote the first chapter. I wrote the introduction. I invited Bill Ryan. He is the head of Transplant Life Foundation, and they put on the Transplant Games of America. He's a donor family, donor dad. And then I invited 24 others to share their story in this book. And actually some chapters are shared with, could be, you know, living donor and recipient, kind of sharing and splitting the chapter. But Jean is definitely one that I wanted to include her story, her amazing story of how her life was saved through living kidney donation. And I've been blessed to also get to know Pat, who is Jean's living kidney donor, and many of the others that have written chapters. I haven't met all of them, so that's a big goal for me, is to, and they're from all over the country. So hopefully eventually I'll get to meet everyone that has written a chapter in this book. So
Okay.
Jean, well, I'll let you ask any questions if you want.
I do have some questions. First, what are the steps that you would take? You heard from the other mom that she was in need of a kidney, and you were tested. Just to give like the basic process. So you were tested, and you ended up being a match. what, like, what are the steps? Just a blood test, or is there more? Is there more to it?
Well, to start, it's the blood work. And it's a lot of blood, like 20 some vials of blood. Back then, there wasn't, so now it's called paired exchange, where if you're not a match for somebody, you can still donate like on their behalf. And then you participate in this paired exchange. And so your kidney goes to somebody that it's a match for, and then the one that you wanted to donate to, then another kidney comes to them. But fortunately for our situation back then, I was a match. So the interesting thing when we talk about blood type, so my recipient, her blood type is O positive, I'm O negative. And so O is the universal. And in organ donation, the positive negative doesn't usually matter. But if you're an O person, you can only receive from an O person. So it is more challenging when you have O blood type to find a living kidney donor, versus if you're what other blood type, then you could still potentially receive from an O person. But yeah, so it starts with the blood work. They do matching. They have markers that they I don't know, I'm not scientific enough, but there's 6 markers. And well, now they're getting even better with science and how they can have somebody still potentially be a match, even just if you had 1 out of the 6. And I'm pretty sure that we had 3 out of 6 markers. So it was a pretty good match. Then there's also, once they determine that you are actually, like a blood match, then you get basically like the biggest, best physical of your life to determine that, you're healthy. Do a CT scan, like, well, hey, let's make sure that she actually has 2 kidneys, because some people are born with 1 and they don't even know it until maybe they had some, kind of exam, x-ray or whatever done. George, who is one of the chapter authors in the book, George Franklin, he's amazing because he's actually had his kidney from a deceased donor for 45 years. But he was born with 1 kidney. So I don't think he he didn't even know that until he started having issues, is what I believe, if I remember correctly. But then back to what you need to do. Then there's also a psych eval to make sure that, like questions like, okay, what if this kidney transplant doesn't work? How will you feel? They want to make sure, just asking different questions, that you're mentally sound, that whatever scenario would happen, that you would be able to handle it. So that's kind of the major things when looking to donate a kidney. So if you want to know if you're healthy, definitely, consider donating a kidney, and you'll get the best workup ever.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll turn to the other side, and we'll of the kidney, the recipient, and we'll talk to Jean and listen to a little of her story. Hi, Jean.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Janette. I've lived in Wayne since 1997, and always drive by the Wayne Library. And for some reason, one day after our book came out, I'm driving by the municipal building, and I'm like, why don't I stop into the library and talk about our book? I mean, it's an amazing book and a very inspiring book. And I was so grateful that you took the time out of your day to speak with me about it. And fast forward, here we are. So thank you again for the opportunity. And I appreciate Brenda taking the time out of her crazy schedule to come and speak with us as well. So my name is Jean Sime. I am a Wayne resident since 1997. I was diagnosed with end-stage renal disease back in 2013, and I started kidney dialysis back in 2013. 2015 is when I started in-center hemodialysis. For those who are not familiar with it, it is basically a way for me to stay alive because my kidneys failed or were in the process of being failed. And you literally get hooked up to a life-saving machine. In my case, it was 3 times a week for 3.5 hours each treatment, which truly was more like 5.5 hours because you needed to go in and there's a whole process where you have to get weighed. They have to calculate how much fluid needs to be removed from you. You get, I always said, hooked up to the machine or plugged into the machine, and the machine would do the action of what a normal kidney would do. It would filter your blood. And without that, if you have end-stage renal disease, you would not last very long. So I was very appreciative, even though it was very, it really hit home when the doctor told me that I would need to start dialysis. My mom was a diabetic and she was on kidney dialysis when she was here on Earth with us. So I was familiar a little bit with it, but until it happens to you personally, I mean, it was within my family. I watched my mom go through it, but until it hits you, it does not, you don't comprehend it. And I would say in the beginning, I was in a little bit of a funk, I'm not gonna lie, because it is life-changing. And you do question your mortality and why this is happening to you. You have your pity party and all that. And it took me about 6 months before I would accept it, before I would actually talk about it to other people. In the beginning, only my family knew and my employer knew. That was it. I didn't share it with my friends. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed that I needed this life-saving machine for me to stay alive. And again, until I actually accepted it and was grateful that this machine was there to save my life every day, you know, I was having a hard time accepting it. So once I did, though, I just, you know what, attitude for me, in my case, and I would say probably for a lot of other patients in that situation, is the key. It's probably 90% success rate on a dialysis machine is your attitude. And until you accept it and you embrace it and you learn to have a work-life balance, because I was working full-time and I was going to work and I would schedule my work around the dialysis where I would have to go the 3 times a week. And I would admit, sometimes after the treatment, I was not feeling very well. In the beginning, I was feeling great because there was so much poison and toxicity in my blood that this was actually a relief for me, going to the machine, going on the machine, having it filter my blood, etc. But I would say towards, 3 years afterwards, I received my kidney transplant in 2019. It was getting very, very difficult and very, very exhausting. And even though the dialysis keeps you alive, there could be complications because it's a lot of strain on your heart. And the machine will keep you alive. You won't die from the disease, but you will die from other complications. So I knew at that point I needed to, get well enough to get approved to be on the transplant list. So that's pretty grueling. Even though the living donors also go through all those tests, the recipient goes through many, 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 many tests. And like Brenda said, it's the most thorough physical you will ever go through in your life. And they literally check from head to toe. And if you are not in, I'm not going to say good health, because obviously you're sick if you need to be on dialysis, but you need to be healthy enough that you can survive the surgery. So there are the many different tests that you need to go through. And in my situation, there were a few things that I did need to take care of before I could get on the approved transplant list. And once I did get on the transplant list, it was just a matter of waiting at that point. Back then, I was not very active with looking for a living donor. Unfortunately, at my dialysis center, they did not talk too much about transplant. They didn't educate the patients enough about transplant. It's partially my fault because I should have been proactive and really educated myself about it. But when you're sick, you know, your primary focus is you and getting through the treatment and managing that part of your life 15 hours a week, besides going to work full time, besides coming home and taking care of your family and taking care of your household and everything else that you need to do. That in my case, I did not make that a priority, and I should have. But miracles happen. I would go to one of the local hospitals for routine blood work and any other procedures I needed to. All my doctors are in the same hospital. And the one woman who was the phlebotomist who would always take my blood, she had been taking my blood for at least 3 years. So she knew my story. She knew I was on dialysis. I would talk to her about different things that were happening at dialysis. So we became friendly. And one day after I had blood work, she ran into one of her coworkers. Her name's Pat. And Pat had been a nurse at that hospital for about 40 years. And Pat was telling, Beverly was the phlebotomist's name. She was telling Beverly about how she had wanted to donate her kidney way back when to one of her other patients. Long story short, things happened, illnesses happened, and the transplant did not happen. Luckily, the woman did get a transplant a few years later, but Pat still had the desire to still donate. So she was telling Beverly that she had seen a little boy on the local news who was pleading that his dad needed a kidney. So Pat thought this was a sign. And she says, you know what, maybe, I should start thinking about it again. It's been 10 years, 12 years, whatever it was at that point, since she had wanted to donate to her patient. And she started the testing process. And luckily, the dad did find a few different matches. So they reached out to Pat and said, thank you very much. We did find some matches for this little boy's dad. So she was sharing this information with Beverly, and Beverly is like, well, Jean, my patient, she's on dialysis. She needs a kidney transplant. Would you consider donating to her? Now, Pat never met me. She didn't know of me. She only knew of this conversation that Beverly was having with her. And she said to her, absolutely, why not? So Beverly reached out to me and she left a message on my voicemail. And she says, you're not going to believe this. My coworker, Pat, she's a friend of mine. I talked to her about your situation and she's considering donating a kidney to you. Now I listened to this on my voicemail and I pulled over on the side of the road, of course, to listen to it. And I was like, I couldn't believe what I was just hearing. And I'm thinking to myself, this woman's a total stranger who doesn't even know me. Why would she donate her kidney to me? So it took me a few days to be brave enough to give her a call. And I actually called her when I was getting treatment. And she, from the moment that she picked up the phone, I knew she was the one. She was just so kind-hearted, and just, you know, the way she was handling all the questions that I was rapid firing at her, you know, I just knew she was just such a kind woman and a selfless woman. And I knew she had my kidney. And I asked her, you know, listen, out of all the questions that I have for you, the one main question that I just need to ask you is, why would you donate your kidney to me, a total stranger? And she said, after all the things that I have seen in my 40 years of nursing, watching someone hooked up to a dialysis machine was the most difficult for me to watch. I just want to give back. And I was like, I'm right here. I am right here. You want to give back? I would be honored. So we started the testing process. And I was still going through my testing. She was going through her grueling testing, because it is a lot of testing, that even though she was a nurse and she was in good health and everything, she still had to go through all of those tests as well. So Pat was 67 when she donated to me. We had a few little ups and downs in between. She had a couple issues, I had a couple issues, but long story short, June 25th, 2019 is when PJ, who is our kidney name, we wanted to name our kidney, and we couldn't think of a name. And I said, you know what? How about PJ? P for Patricia and J for Jean. And PJ was born. So it was an amazing experience, going through this with her as my living donor, going through the whole testing process. Obviously, not only did we become friends, but she's my sister. And it was just, I'm just so grateful and so humbled. And it's just an amazing experience. I would not wish it on anyone, but I was just so grateful to go through this with her, because of her just kindness and being so selfless. And she's a nurse, and I actually had to go to the hospital to get a procedure done, and she asked me if I wanted her to take care of me at the hospital. I said absolutely. And I did not tell anyone other than my sister about Pat. And my husband and my dad were with me when I was getting the procedure, and they met Pat, and they didn't know that she was going to be my living donor. So afterwards, I did tell them, you know, once we got cleared and everything, because anything can happen. And, you know, she was actually a match for me. So what are the odds that this total stranger wanted to donate to me, and she was a match on top of that, which is very, very rare. So again, I call it the miracle kidney, and that's actually my chapter's name. Do you believe in miracles? Because I truly believe that someone sent this woman to me, and I'd be crazy to turn it away. So here we are, 2021. Thank goodness we are both doing well. We see each other frequently as well. So we're in each other's lives, which is a bonus. Not only did I receive this wonderful, amazing kidney, which changed my life and saved my life, but I have this beautiful woman who is part of my life as well, which a lot of recipients don't get that opportunity. So I feel very humbled. And I will say that this whole experience, I would not wish it on anyone to get sick, but I would never, ever, ever imagine that getting kidney disease would be one of the best things that happened to me in my life. So you can't understand it unless you're in our shoes. But I think I speak for a lot of other people that just the community of people that I've met, as Brenda was stating, you know, through Facebook, that's really where I went to. I have some support groups as well of recipients, which truly helped me. It's a local support group that they were the first ones that I met. And without them in the beginning, seriously, I was so confused and had so many questions. And even though my team of doctors were amazing and so supportive, it's not like speaking to someone who has gone through it themselves. And it's the Morris County support group through Donate Life. And I'm still part of them, and they've been amazing. And they were the first ones, but I belong to a couple of the local organ procurement organizations, OPOs, New Jersey Sharing Network. I'm a certified volunteer with them, and Pat, my donor, is as well. So we try to get involved. Before COVID happened, we try to get involved in volunteering opportunities and just spreading awareness and talking to people and sharing our journey. I mean, even when we go out, whether it's for lunch or we go, to a store, we always wind up talking to someone about organ donation and about our stories. And Pat is amazing because she is not shy. She's very proud to talk about it. She even asked, "Do you want to see our scars?" And we have shown our scars to people in the middle of a restaurant. But it's just so people understand the impact of checking that box off, the impact of even considering to become a living donor like she is. And without our donor families, without our living donors, I wouldn't be here. I may be here, but I wouldn't be healthy here. So I'm not on dialysis any longer, thank goodness. Hopefully I don't ever have to experience that again. I'm grateful that we have that type of treatment to save us and to keep us going, but it's not a quality of life. I try to make it a quality of life. I didn't let it stop me from traveling because I would just do my treatments wherever I was traveling to. I mean, even when I went to Disney World, whether it was in Florida or was in California, my dialysis center helped me get them scheduled. And, it was an inconvenience, but I made it happen, and it didn't stop me from being with my family and still enjoying life. And, that again, that's the whole attitude part that comes in. And if I can inspire anyone that is on dialysis currently, it's personal. I understand that, and you get into your funk, but until you accept it and embrace it and make it work, because you didn't ask for it to happen to you, but it did. And if you want to live life, you got to figure it out, whatever works for you. And again, I was just very fortunate to have a good support system, not only with my family, my friends, my work. They were great with as far as my treatments and letting me leave early and, making up the time, etc. But also having Pat by my side, to support me through the whole journey, truly, especially the transplant journey. But it's just been great. And if I could talk to anyone that's going through it or maybe going through it in their near future, I work with, I volunteer with a lot of organizations that we can help people, and as I mentioned, just the community of people that I have met, such as Brenda, have changed my life, really. I again, this could have been a really bad journey that I was going on, and it could not have ended well, but these amazing people supported me. And even now, 2 years after, because I was in 2019, we got our transplant, still very active in the community, not only through social media, but volunteering, working as a mentor for one of the other co-authors in the book, Jen Benson, The Transplant Journey, Inc. a mentor with her organization, nonprofit organization, where we work one-on-one with different folks that are going through the same situation. They're going through their transplant journey. They may be on dialysis or pre-dialysis, and just try and help them and lessen their anxiety through it, because there's so many questions, and the centers and the doctors don't tell you everything because they can't, and they're not experiencing it like you are. You know, they're the clinical side of it. They're not the emotional, the personal side of it. So we just try and give them a little bit of guidance and put them in the right direction and give them support, because really that's what folks in that situation need. They just need support and someone that they can talk to and ask questions. And, you know, we don't give medical advice or anything like that, but it's just, it's been great. And working with Brenda, you know, through her Howl the Owl ambassador program that she has going, and just being friends and sisters with her. I just met her through Facebook for somehow, I don't even remember how we met, and we clicked right away and just supported her with the Howl the Owl, because like two most important things to me are, you know, being kind and, you know, talking about kindness. And that's what the world needs, is just to be kind to each other, because everybody's struggling with something. You don't know what they're struggling with, but just to be there and support people and to be kind and try and help others with love, of course. And then I met her on an organ donation cruise that a friend of ours in the community, who's also a living donor, who organized. And that was the first time I met her physically in person. And I think that definitely enhanced our relationship as well. So I don't want to keep rambling on, but anything I can do to help someone else that's going through this. This book is amazing. There are 25 co-authors in this book. Brenda was kind enough to invite us to be a part of it and share our stories in there. And it's not for fame or for fortune. It's to inspire others and to let them know they're not alone. They're not alone. We've gone through this. We are still going through this. And if we can inspire other people and let them know that it's going to be okay, that's what the whole purpose of the Because of Organ Donation book is for. So I could keep rambling. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. I did want to say I loved the in your chapter of the book where you said that after you got out of your funk, you would walk into the dialysis center, and after being weighed, you would go around and you would say hello to every single person, and that was just so touching and so beautiful. Like, you know, it's very lonely, and I'm sure that they are also in a funk, and it was just, you know, such a nice gesture.
I would actually get yelled at because, you know, it's all timed basically, you know, it's an appointment more or less. And they're like, okay, Jean, your chair is ready. And they would tap on their watch. And I'm like, I'm just saying hello to everyone, because a lot of those people were in nursing homes. They didn't have any family or friends that would visit them. And, you know, all I did was say hello to them. That was it. And some of them, you know, you just see them perk up. And to me, that was important, because going in there was so depressing. And going into the center reminded me that I was sick. Other than that, at home, I would go about my business. I would go to work. I would do this. I would go that. But when I went into the center, it reminded me that I was sick, because these people are sick. But again, it's your attitude. Yeah, I'm sick, but you know what? I'm alive. Thank God I'm alive. And I'm going to continue to be alive. And I know this is only a temporary fix for me. I mean, for some of the other folks that did not qualify for a transplant, this was their life. So you know what? Let's just try and have fun with it. And I was probably one of the only people who, I didn't look forward to the treatment, but I look forward to seeing the other patients, because they were my family. They were my dialysis family, and we were there together, and we supported each other and talked about things and asked each other questions. Because again, you know, you don't get that kind of support, the emotional support, which is so important. And that's why, you know, I hope this book can educate others and let them see that they're not alone. And, you know, you have to be proactive to look for a donor, number one, if that's their choice and if they're qualified for it, of course. But to talk to other people that are going through it as well, or have been through it, because that's what's really going to help you get through it on the emotional part, which no one really talks about, the emotional part. So the clinical part, but it's a lot. It's overwhelming for you. It's overwhelming for your family. It's overwhelming for whoever is your support system, because it's confusing and it's pretty scary, but it's more, it happens more often than you know about. And again, with this book, just encouraging others to become aware of why you check off that box on your driver's license. What does that mean? You know, it's saving a life. It truly is saving a life. And if you get that calling and you feel it within yourself to become a living donor, do it. And don't be scared. And there's so many living donors out there who can talk to you. I'm sure Brenda would be, you know, first in line if someone had a question, you know, that she would talk to somebody about it and just reassure them she's great, she's healthy, you know, she's her own boss, she's self-employed, you know, she's following her dream with her books and her passion. And it's of why you check off that box on your driver's license. What does that mean? You know, it's saving a life. It truly is saving a life. And if you get that calling and you feel it within yourself to become a living donor, do it. And don't be scared. And there's so many living donors out there who can talk to you. I'm sure Brenda would be, you know, first in line if someone had a question, you know, that she would talk to somebody about it and just reassure them she's great, she's healthy, you know, she's her own boss, she's self-employed, you know, she's following her dream with her books and her passion. And it's you can live a normal life with one kidney. That's all you need, is one kidney to be alive. So sorry.
No, no, sorry. I guess I'll ask, did either of you ever dream of becoming an author or writing books, or it's truly just something that came out of this experience? Or...
For me, it honestly just came out of the experience. I liked writing, you know, maybe little poems, rhyming stuff. But no, it wasn't on my radar as, you know, I want to be an author. It just, it was just part of the plan that I wasn't aware of back then. But I'm blessed that the journey has brought me to where I am today, and all the amazing people. And then this book, I mean, it's been so well received. Just to hear the different things that people, you know, have said about it. It's not necessarily the easiest to read. You know, tearjerker warning. You know, you're definitely gonna feel tugs on your heartstrings and some tears when you empathize with what some of these people have been through, you know, whether it's their, you know, Terry waiting for her lungs. You know, there's a few different stories of people waiting, and just how scary it is to not be able to breathe, and, you know, in that situation, and people that are waiting for a heart. You know, you're waiting for someone to pass away. You're waiting for someone to some people refer to it like, be done using theirs and willing to, share it then and let it move on, let it keep, healing, helping somebody. So you're not always just dependent on somebody saying yes. You honestly are dependent on the family knowing the wishes as well. So then to hear or read some of the donor family stories, it's just, it's kind of heart-wrenching, but it's also inspiring that people were able to, in the midst of this horrible grief, and still, decide that, either they're honoring their loved ones' wishes, or if they're not sure. So one of the chapter authors is NASCAR driver Joey Gase. And, now he uses his platform to, raise awareness, but he was only 18 years old and his mom was in her young 40s and passed away from a brain aneurysm, and everything happened so fast. And he basically was, the next of kin. His parents weren't, married anymore. And without really knowing that Jesus, didn't even have her driver's license at that moment, like to look at and like, oh, is she even registered as an organ donor? But just knowing the type of person that she was, that like this would probably be something she would want to do. And then they did find out later that yes, in fact, she, did have it on her driver's license. Or people that, your baby passes away, and do they have the ability to help other babies or children? Or on the other side of, your child, there's one story in there, little Briggs, and he had 3 liver transplants within a short amount of time. He is thriving now, and he's 5 or 6 years old, but literally each one, even though they may have not lasted, they essentially saved his life to allow him to receive the next one. But just the emotions tied to all of that. We hope that either these stories will help if you're somehow going through this, and just inspire you. If you don't know much about organ donation, you don't have any, connections, read the book and just hear these people's stories and their journeys.
And for myself, I was not even a reader. I mean, I really had no desire to read books or anything like that. And when Brenda approached me to become one of the co-authors, I'm like, I'm not a writer, Brenda. She goes, just write from your heart. And that's all I did. And with her magic of editing and all that, I guess I'm a co-author now, which I never, ever, ever imagined or dreamed of or ever foresee that in my future. So I just honored to be part of the book, honored to share my story with everyone, and really blessed to be a part of this project with the 23 plus Brenda, other co-authors. They have inspired me. Reading their stories has inspired me. Knowing and meeting so many of the co-authors from around the country has inspired me. And I hope it does the same for others. And if you have never written anything, just write your thoughts down, put them in a journal, because even if you don't want to share them with anyone, it may be very therapeutic for you. And if you would like to share them with other people, you would be amazed how many people you inspire just from putting your thoughts down on paper. So.
I know you both mentioned different events. A cruise that you were on that was for organ donors and recipients, or just people interested in donation?
It was one of the women that is in our transplant community. Her name is Kate. She is a living donor as well, and she just organized this cruise for organ donation awareness, and it was recipients, it was organ donors, donor families, and it was just an opportunity for us to meet in person and get together, but with a mission of spreading organ donation awareness to everyone that was on that cruise. They knew who we were, what our reason for being there was, as well as getting off the ship and talking to other people, wearing our t-shirts, and it was just really for awareness. And I think we accomplished our mission with that. So
that's great. And you mentioned, Brenda, the transplant games. That sounds fascinating. So are the participants also recipients and donors? Or?
Yeah, so they're evolving more. Gosh, they've been around for a while. I don't honestly recall how long. I wish I had known about them sooner, because they were actually they took place in Wisconsin, where I live, in 2010, and I knew nothing about it, so I didn't get to be a part of it. And I finally learned about it, I think like 5 years later. So I participated, and actually I didn't participate. I went and I took it all in when they were in Cleveland in 2016. So it's Olympic style, but not all like completely athletic games. And I believe it was started with recipients, for them to be able to showcase, like, look at what I can do now. I've, been saved, I'm healed. Also to allow like the donor families then to see, what the gift has done for other people. So every 2 years, it takes place in a different city. Usually ends up being now like probably like 7,000 people congregating. I also was a part of it in 2018 in Salt Lake City. There are some games that living donors can be a part of now. There's a 5K, there's, your typical like swimming, there's golf, there's basketball, there's ballroom dancing, there's pickleball, there's Texas Hold'em and darts and cornhole, beanbag toss, just so many different cool things. So the games actually were supposed to take place in your neck of the woods in New Jersey, New York, right there, last year, but we all know what happened last year. And so they rescheduled them to this summer, but with the way things were still so uncertain, and so many people who are recipients and, compromised immune systems with all of the anti-rejection medications that they take, they basically reimagined them, and most of it was virtual.
mm-hmm.
So next year it's on track, and then hopefully they'll take place, but in 2022 they're supposed to be in San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So the virtual reimagined transplant games was at the American Dream.
Oh,
this
okay.
year. Yeah. Last month, the end of July. But everything was virtual, but they did have a booth set up, and a couple of the vendors and hospitals supporting, New Jersey Sharing Network were there supporting. So they did the best that they could under the situation that we are under. And as Brenda mentioned, because a lot of the recipients that had wanted to participate, including myself, due to the medication that we're taking for the anti-rejection, it's just questionable whether, with everything going on, that we should have done anything in person. So I think they did the right thing by making it virtual. At least there was, an opportunity to participate virtually rather than, just postponing it for another year. But hopefully next year in San Diego, we can all meet again and participate in person. So it'd be awesome because I would love to experience it. And there you go. Hal has a book about the transplant games.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I just wanted to share that.
Okay. I'm going to ask, are you working on another Howl book? Oh,
I am. There's actually two. One, I did enlist the help of Jean. So my first Howl book was Howl Gets a Heart. So he gets a heart transplant. And then at the request of Children's Hospital, they were requesting one about liver. And I didn't know a lot about, pediatric liver transplants, but it is actually a very common transplanted organ because of a disease called biliary atresia. And so a lot of, most, I think, children that have that, they will end up needing a liver transplant. So now it's been asked, even though I have a couple that are about kidneys, this one is Howl's grandpa is the one that needs a kidney. So they wanted Children's Hospitals again requesting that there's one about Howl getting a kidney transplant. So what better person than Jean to enlist the help of to try to make this story as accurate as possible. So that one's in the works. We have to get started on illustrations. And then I actually wrote one that I've been wanting to write this one for a while, and I don't know, just maybe too many other things going on or whatever, but I finally actually wrote it on my airplane ride out to New Jersey to visit Jean last month. And it's about Howl learning about lungs, and based on a true story of one of our chapter authors, Maria Terry Palawa, and she is the double lung recipient. So she was invited, then many people are invited once they're a recipient to ride on the Donate Life float that's part of the Rose Parade. And I had seen on Facebook that she was, going to be riding on the float, and this was not last year, but the year before. And I reached out to her and I said, if I send you my plush Howl the Owl, would you take him with you to ride on the parade float? And she was so excited, and she did. So technically Howl, he also rode on the float. And so that story is kind of centered around Howl getting invited and helping to decorate the float, meeting this, new person, Maria. They become friends, and he learns about her journey as a lung transplant recipient. So those are the two that will be next, but I want to continue and keep going with the message of what Howl's name is: help others with love, kindness. There's so many different stories to write, and even just a vision of a cartoon, Howl and his message, and just different cartoons talking about just kindness, because we need to plant that in the minds of our children, because with the way the world is these days, like Jean said earlier, yeah, we definitely need more kindness in the world.
I agree. Um, I will ask both of you this question, and I think you may have answered it in different ways so far. But if you can say one way that your life has been changed because of organ donation, what would you say is the one way? Jean, you want to go first?
So I was gonna throw that to Brenda first. You know what? It's a great question, first of all. And I've been asked that many, many, many times before. And I don't know if I ever came up with one answer for that, because it's a loaded question. I have changed so much, not only physically, not only mentally, but spiritually. It really, for me, made me look at life totally, totally, totally different. When you are given a challenge as this, you really put things into perspective. I will say one of the many changes, though, is just being kind and appreciating life and appreciating the people who are around you. I can't speak enough about the friends that I have met through this entire journey, friends who are my family, who have been there and who have supported me, who have changed my life. And there are no coincidences, I believe. There's a reason for things happening to you, whether they're good things, whether they're not so good things. But just giving back to others, in my case, it's just made me more of a more kind person and really helping others. It's true. I mean, it has nothing to do with Brenda's title and Howl's mission, but it just made me a kinder person, and maybe think about others before myself. So I was given this gift. Pat came to me. She gave me the selfless gift of life, and it just made me have a total different perspective on life and the purpose of life and what you want to do with your life and what you want to leave behind. So I know it's not one answer, but
It is kind of, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna answer it. I'm gonna use it in a sentence. And it's kind of funny that you asked this, because just this morning I was thinking of asking this kind of same question on our Facebook page, our Because of Organ Donation Facebook page, was to use the title of our book in a sentence. So because of organ donation, ... or your ... could be, and then followed up by because of organ donation. But for me, I'm going to say, because of organ donation, I was able to help someone save somebody's life in a manner that not too many people have that opportunity to do. It has changed my life, well, because it essentially brought about this whole new writing career that I didn't really even have on my radar. And I have been blessed by all the people within the organ donation community, and just connections throughout that I've been able to meet and be a part of. And amazing friends and, you know, people that you consider like family.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm going to say thank you to both of you for participating today. I'm also going to encourage everyone to check that box on your driver's license. If you haven't, I have for many years now. I will say that this is probably the conversation that I thought was going to be the most significant, like of the author chats, because it is a great message to put out there. And thank you for bringing that book in, your book in, Jean, and it opened the door to this possibility and to getting the message out, not only in the book, but also in promoting the book and getting people to understand a little bit more about organ donation from the recipient's point of view and from the donor's point of view. So I thank you both for joining me today. If there's any last message you want to make sure everybody leaves here today with, the floor is yours.
I'll go. Well, you mentioned checking the box on your driver's license, but now there's also other ways, just because we don't really, you know, update our licenses like we used to very often. So go online. Registerme.org is one place you can go, and you can also do it if you have an iPhone. You can go right on your iPhone. There's an app. It's the health app. It's probably too hard to see with the light, but it's basically white with a red heart. It says health. You go through there. Honestly, if you haven't, I would encourage you to fill out your information in there, and have it accessible if there's an emergency. So emergency responders can access that without having to put like your phone code in or anything. So there's that part of it. And then there's also the part through Donate Life America that you can commit your wishes to register as an organ donor. And with saying Donate Life America, I forgot to mention that I do support Donate Life America with proceeds from all of the books. So they get some partial proceeds from all of the book sales, including the plush Howl. And I do also want to say that this book, it's the first of a series. And I know some of the chapter authors had said that, you know, it needs to be a series. And honestly, when I was going through the process of, you know, I didn't write the whole book, but yes, it was all these people that, you know, they really weren't writers. I did a lot of the editing. It was a lot of work, and, you know, very different from the children's books that I was used to. I didn't necessarily know what to expect. It's been a wonderful learning experience. But if you would have asked me way back when, in the heart of me going through all the chapter editing and everything, I'd be like, oh no, there's not going to be another book. But now that it's out and I see what an amazing book tool it's been, there's so many more amazing stories. So the next one, we're going to focus on actually pediatric stories. So, and again, the same concept of, and hopefully there'll be some that they can, you know, maybe if they're teenagers, they can write their own chapter. You know, some that the parent will have to write it, and then donor families where obviously the parent would be writing it. And then I'll continue on, you know, with another one of, you know, similar to this first one, with just the variety of stories. So that's in the works.
Wonderful. That's wonderful news. Okay.
Yeah.
I thank you again. Go ahead, Jean.
And all of our contacts are in each of our chapters. So if there's anyone who would like to reach out to us individually, maybe they connected reading one of our stories. Maybe it's something that they're going through, or someone in their family's going through, or friends going through. They can contact any of the co-authors that are a part of this book. Brenda had mentioned about the Facebook page, because of organ donation Facebook page. If you go and you like it and you follow it, usually once a week, if I'm not correct, Brenda, correct me on that, she will have a Facebook Live where she actually interviews someone, whether it's a recipient, whether it's a living donor, whether it's someone who's part of the donor family. And they are just so inspiring. And we welcome you to participate. We welcome you to log on to watch it and listen and become part of the chat. Again, their stories are so inspiring, and that's why Brenda chose to continue doing the Facebook Lives. So I encourage others to like the page, follow the page, and participate. And you just don't know. I mean, we hope it never touches your life personally, but there are so many people out there, and you're not alone. And if we can help someone along their journey, that's what we hope to inspire others. So thank you so much. It's been amazing. It's been great. I hope others check out the YouTube page for it. And
Hope so. We will also add, I will ask my colleague to add the link to Because of Organ Donation on Facebook, so that people can go.
And then also
that.
the same name for a website.
Okay.
Yeah, and also
Add that at the end.
howltheowl.com also. So
This was very inspiring conversation, and I am, in awe of both of you. Definitely.
Well, thank you again for your time and for taking the time to speak with me that day. I really truly appreciate it, and I was so excited afterwards. And I called Brenda up after, and I told her I made a great connection. And whether it's just for our local community or globally, we hope to reach out to as many people as we can, and just to educate. And again, if someone has the calling to help someone while they are still here, I mean, there's a huge need for it. How many are waiting for a transplant? Right, Brenda? Over 100,000 probably. Yeah.
More than 100,000, 105,000.
Yeah.
Our national transplant waiting list, and majority of them are actually kidneys, in case people aren't aware. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Correct. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you. It's been a true pleasure to be a part of this. I really appreciate it.